He's a senior research fellow for Middle Eastern Affairs and joins me now from Washington, D.C. Hi, Jim. So thank you very much, first of all, for joining us here on TRT World. Well, we have been getting mixed signals from Trump. First, he says, go ahead with Operation Giving Green Light. And then he says, we will devastate Turkey's economy. And then, well, they are our good friends. So what are we supposed to make of all this?
Well, I think President Trump has been hit by a backlash about possibly abandoning a U.S. ally, and he has reacted by making it clear that he is not in favor of the Turkish intervention and, in fact, reserves the right to push back against Turkey in terms of economic sanctions if Turkey goes too far in trying to dismantle the Syrian Kurdish organizations that have done such a good job of fighting ISIS. And I think uppermost in the minds of many in Washington is how to prevent ISIS from resurging in Syria and Iraq. And it's not clear to many people here that Turkey is in a position where it can guarantee that that ISIS will not be back.
Well, Jim, I mean, from day one, it's not always, since he took office, it's not always been clear his Middle East policy, really, especially on Syria. So yesterday, I mean, the different messages coming out. Can Turkey trust Trump's decision here that they're pulling out the troops and they can go ahead with the operation then?
I think Turkey can count on the fact that the U.S. will not militarily resist Turkey, but if it oversteps the understanding, which I presume exists between Washington and Ankara on the extent of the intervention, then I think it can expect substantial pushback from the U.S.
Well, Jim, also, Trump mentioned about Daesh prisoners here will be the responsibility of those who capture them. And the YPG has Daesh prisoners. What will happen to them? Didn't the YPG threaten to release those prisoners if the group was attacked?
The YPG has stressed that it will be forced to divert its forces northward if Turkey does intervene, and that could lead to the escape of some of the prisoners, but I've seen no statement saying they will purposely release them. But this is another concern in Washington, is what happens to those prisoners, because the Assad regime injected life into ISIS by releasing many prisoners in the run-up to the emergence of the so-called ISIS caliphate.
So that might be another threat waiting. Well, now that the U.S. is pulling out eventually, will the geopolitical dynamics change in the region, especially of the key players like Russia and Iran?
Well, it's not clear to me that the U.S. is pulling out of the region. Some officials have stepped forward in the last 24 hours to say that the U.S. is pulling out of the northern part of Syria, but not out of the places farther south, and that 50 U.S. Special Forces troops have been withdrawn from the border, but it's not clear that the remaining 1,000 will be pulled out anytime soon. I think eventually they will be pulled out, but I think the U.S. is going to want some ironclad arrangements to prevent the return of ISIS when it does pull out.
Well, we do have to wrap it up here, but thank you very much for that insight, Jim Phillips.